Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the first day of dividing polynomials. But before we get into dividing polynomials, we're going to take a trip back to elementary school and I'm going to remind you about long division. Now I'm going to be the first to admit that long division actually made me cry when I was in 5th grade in Mrs. Kitch's class. But since then I've learned to do it and now it's okay. So just to refresh your memory about a couple of vocabulary terms before we get started. Whenever we are dividing, the thing that we are dividing into is called the dividend. So that's usually our bigger number that's going to get divided. The thing we're dividing by is the divisor, and our answer is a quotient. Okay? And if we have a remainder, if it doesn't divide evenly, then our answer can be written as the quotient plus the remainder over the divisor. This is what you learned when you learned how to write your long division answers with a fraction. Now, originally when you learned it, you probably learned to just write r equals something, your remainder equals something, then you graduated to doing a fraction answer, and then finally you learned decimals. But today, as we do polynomial division, we will focus on this type of reporting of the remainder as a fraction of the remainder over divisor. So these are the steps that we go through in order to do long division, whether it's just regular numbers or our polynomials that we're going to get into today. So we're going to divide the divisor into the first term of the quotient if we can, and then multiply it, subtract it, bring it down, and repeat. So what I would like you to do right off is pause this video and see if you remember how to do long division by taking this expression right here, 4, divided into 1,585. And I'd like you to report your remainder as a fraction. So pause the video and then come back here. Okay, let's go ahead and go through this together and see if you remembered how to do long division. Again, I'm reminding you that we are taking the divisor and dividing it into the dividend. The answer that we get is going to be the quotient, and we might have a remainder. So our first step is to divide. So we take a look and see, will 4 divide into 1? And the answer is no. So we move on and we say, will 4 divide into 15? And the answer to that is yes. And we want to ask ourselves how many times? Well, 4 will divide into 15 3 times. And now we want to multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. Now we subtract. We subtract 12 from 15 and we get 3. And then we bring down our next number here, the 8. So we're on step 4, bring down. So I'm going to bring down the 8 and ask myself the same questions. I'm going to repeat this whole process. Will 4 divide into 38? Yes. How many times? 9. 4 times 9, 36. Subtract. I get a 2. Bring down the next number, 5. How many times does 4 divide into 25? Well, that's a 6. 4 times 6, 24. Subtract. And now I have a 1. Now this is the point where, depending on which phase of long division you were in, I believe in your 5th grade class, at least that's when I learned it, we would either report our remainder, because we've run out of numbers, we don't have any more to divide into. We would report it as just an r equals 1, or we would report it as the number here, 1, divided by the divisor, 4. That's what we're going to do today. Eventually we learn to do decimals, but that doesn't make sense in polynomials, so we're not going to take it that far. All right, so if we want to actually write our final answer, it's the quotient plus remainder over divisor. So our quotient is 396, and then our remainder is 1, and our divisor was 4. And so this is our final answer. So this is our remainder, The divisor we already labeled up above, but I will label it here as well. And finally, the main part of our answer is the quotient. So we want to keep these steps in mind and these vocabulary terms in mind as we get into our Algebra 2 content, which is dividing polynomials instead of just numbers.